Welcome back to your mindset coaching session. I am Zen Mindset, and I'll be teaching you today about how to control your emotions. Why is emotional control so important? Let's take a second here to look at the word emotion. There's a word motion in the word emotion, motion. And what is motion? Motion means to take action. And that is the purpose behind literally each and every emotion that we feel. Emotions are there for us to take some kind of action. But the problem is when our emotions are too highly charged, when we're highly emotionally aroused by something like anger or fear or worry, we can't take the best action because we're not thinking so clearly and it keeps us stuck. So we're not trying to do away with any kind of emotions here. We're just trying to find out how to have more emotional control so that we can still feel anger, but we feel anger in the right way for the right period of time, and we take the right type of action when you feel anger. If you ever felt anger, but that anger moved you to take some kind of positive action and you didn't leave a sea of crushed relationships behind you, and you're not shouting at people and lashing out, but you're directing your anger at some kind of injustice, and it caused you to take action to deal with that injustice, then you can say that that anger was a good thing. But if that anger just rots you from the inside out, it's like acid and it's you just spewing out and lashing out at everyone around you, then that anger is not necessarily helping you. It's taken control rather than you being in control of the anger. So here we're going to look at how to control our emotions so that we can direct them in the right way, to the right place, in the right time, to the things that really matter. So let's jump right in. The first thing you can do whenever you feel very strong emotions is just to look ahead. By look ahead, I mean think of the future. The future could be a month or a day, a week, whatever the case may be. So whenever you're feeling any kind of strong emotion, just ask yourself this. There's a very old story, it's a question by a Sufi poet, and he said, your anger, your depression, your spite, your despair, so seemingly real and important right now, where would they have gone in a month, a week, or even a moment? Because the thing is that emotions change. Nothing stays with us forever. We go through times we feel happy, then there's times we feel not so happy, times we might feel a little bit of worry, then times we feel so calm and relaxed. Nothing stays the same forever. And that thing, that strong emotion, it can rob you of the sense of a future, because that's what strong emotions do. It blinds us to the future and lies to us that now is all there is. So in fact, when we are incredibly anxious or angry, we can even momentarily forget that there's even going to be a future. So if you're anxious about some kind of upcoming event, ask yourself, how am I going to feel tomorrow, next week, when I look back at this? So look beyond the immediate circumstance, look beyond the immediate, and you will see a bigger picture, and this will help you to calm down. You're basically thinking of the future and you're saying, how will I feel when all this is over? And I look back at this thing, how do I want to feel and how would I have wanted to have acted through this particular emotion? The second thing you can do is just be honest with yourself. Call a spade a spade. So we all kid ourselves a little, and some of us kid ourselves a lot. Something good happens to someone close to us and we feel this tightness inside. Maybe it's a little bit of jealousy, and you lie to ourselves and say, I don't feel so jealous about this. I'm really happy for you. When inside you're just eating your heart out. So learn to observe your own attitudes and emotional ebbs and flows. One key first step to emotional control is to know when we are actually being emotional and also why. If you catch yourself feeling unexpectedly strong about something, ask yourself why. Controlling your emotions isn't about pretending that they are not there. If you feel jealous, angry, sad, bitter, or greedy, label exactly how you're feeling in your own mind. Call it to mind. You don't have to verbalize it outward, go and tell someone, but within yourself, tell yourself that this is the emotion that you're feeling. And by doing so, you don't have to rationalize why you feel the way you feel, because the rational lie is what? It's a rational lie. You're rationalizing something. You're telling yourself a lie that is rational. So knowing what emotion you're feeling and being man or woman enough to identify the truth as to why you're feeling it means that you're that much closer to doing something about it. Because if you lie to yourself, if you feel angry about something and you lie to yourself that you're not angry, it's a lot harder to address something if you're not going to actually call it out as it is. So if you're honest with yourself, if you've got that self-honesty to say, this is what I'm feeling, and I'm feeling this way because this has happened, you're one step closer to actually addressing the root cause of that feeling. So be honest with yourself. Once again, you don't have to go and tell the whole world that you feel worried or that you feel jealous over this. Just be honest with yourself, because you take yourself with you wherever you go. And the third thing here you can do is do something. Do anything, but do something. So we tend to assume that moods just happen to us, and like storms, the best we can do is just hunker down and wait till the storm passes. But the thing is, life is not this static thing. We can influence and even change our emotions without resorting to unhealthy means like alcohol and drugs. Being able to manage and influence emotions is a powerful marker of good health, emotional maturity, and happiness. It's actually a barometer to see how strong you are, how emotionally resilient you are, is how quickly can you let go of something that worries you. If something bad happens and someone just cuts you off in traffic, someone's driving really badly around you, maybe on the highway or the freeway, and someone cuts you off and they almost bump into you and they're gone. Now it's 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours later into the day. Are you still seething over this incident, or have you let this thing go? Have you seen it in its broader scope, or are you still narrowly focusing on it? So one way to alter your mood is to instantly do or think about something else, and literally anything else. Anything that's either positive or neutral or just different. Ideally, you don't want to go and think of something worse than what's going on, right? So here, if you're feeling particularly worried about something, or you're feeling anxious, or just feeling quite emotional, you feel uncomfortable, go for a walk, go for a 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute walk, or go on a run. Consciously focus on 3 things in your life that you feel grateful about, and really feel that. Don't just think about them, but just really embrace that, immerse yourself in those feelings of gratitude, and see how you feel afterwards. If you feel anxious about an upcoming event, imagine how you feel after the event has passed, and imagine yourself looking back on that event from the future now. After the thing, you realize that I might feel a little bit worried, a little bit uncomfortable, but there's no real reason to freak out over this thing. Okay, I can get through this. A simple and easy thing to do is to just imagine not feeling the way that you're feeling. So if you're feeling particularly angry about something, imagine how you'd feel if you weren't angry, if you felt calm, if you felt happy, if you felt grateful. What would that feel like? And the more you do this, the more you're actually training your brain to consider alternatives, to consider alternative emotions without necessarily sweeping emotions under the carpet. You're acknowledging what you feel, but you're saying, I can feel other things as well. So do something, anything that gets the body moving, that focuses your mind on something different. And this can snap your emotional state, the negative emotional state, and help you start moving in a different direction. Very powerful thing that we can do here is to learn from others. So there's people around you, I'm sure, and might not be in your close proximity in terms of people that you see every day, or maybe they are, but it could even be people on the internet, people whose blogs you read, podcasts you listen to, or videos you see on Instagram. There are so many people we can learn from. So we can learn so much from other people as long as we're looking to the right people. So find a person in your life who is emotionally skilled, a person who knows how to keep their head, how to keep calm when things are going bad, people who are able to keep their head above water when it feels like they're in a storm, and ask them, how do you keep so cool? How do you keep so cool when you're presenting to other people? Why doesn't that thing make you angry when people are saying this and this about you? How do you keep smiling after such setbacks? And their answers can actually help you to have more emotional resilience, more emotional strength when you're going through your own challenging times, especially if you start to apply the things that you learn. And I'm sure there's at least 1 or 2 people that you can think of. I have this one friend. I, to this day, have never seen him have a bad day. And I don't mean that he's never had a bad day, that he doesn't have challenging times. He does. Everybody does. I'm just saying I've never experienced that from him. He's just such a positive person. And spending 30 minutes or an hour around this person, you walk away like, you know what, man, I can be a little bit more happy in my life. I can be more grateful about things. He just brightens your perspective. And learning from people like that, asking them, how is it that you stay so positive, can help you to be more positive as well in your own personal life. So learning from others, very powerful, very easy technique. And once again, it might not be people in your close vicinity. That's fine. You can ask these people on Facebook. You can ask them on Instagram. You can shoot them an email, whatever the case may be. I think the options are so always around us. And even if you can't directly interact with them, you can listen to their podcasts. You can read their books. You can read their blog posts. There's so many people out there if you're looking for them. So learn from others. Here is one of my personal favorite ways of changing how you feel, and that is changing your physiology. We don't feel emotions as much as we do them, right? Remember that thing I said at the beginning, emotion has that word motion in it. Emotion is created by motion. Emotion is energy in motion. How we feel is determined by how we move. So how we move, how we breathe, how we gesture, our posture, all those things determine how we feel. And if you change how you feel, how you move, you're going to change how you feel. So ask yourself the simple question is, what would it look like to be in a peak state right now? If you're in a peak state of love, ecstasy, joy, excitement, passion, what would that look like in your body? How would you sit? Would you be slumped over? Would you be standing upright? Would your chin be up? Would you be speaking a little bit more faster or a little slower? Would your breathing be full and powerful from the belly, or would it be shallow? So typically when people respond to this, when you're in the peak state, things are more alive, right? You're moving faster, you're speaking a little bit more louder, you speak a little more faster, your posture is more upright, right? You're breathing more powerfully. Think of this. What does the physiology of a depressed person look like? A person that is depressed, right? They probably slumped over, speaking a lot more slowly, maybe looking down, right? It's more of a closed type of posture. The breathing is very shallow and their movements are quite slow. And how would that feel after a while? Now, I've got a question for you. Put yourself in a peak state right now. Got a question for you. Put yourself in a peak state. Doesn't matter who's around you. Just put yourself in a peak state, right? Just sit up in your chair with more energy, put a smile on your face, right? Move a little more faster, breathe deeper, right? And feel how that feels in your body. And ask yourself this, is how you're sitting right now different from how it was when I asked you this question? By that, I mean, were you adopting the physiology of a depressed person? And if you were, how did that make you feel? Because I mean, sometimes you just say, I feel like this and I feel like that. We're not feeling these things, we're doing them. We're putting ourselves in a depressed state because of how we're using our bodies. And it's such a simple thing, but it's so funny. Simple does not mean simplistic. It's simple, but it's powerful. Change your physiology and you change how you feel. There is no one thing that I can emphasize more than anything else that I've taught, that you learned today over this. Change your physiology and you change how you habitually feel. Change for 5 minutes, you change how you feel for 5 minutes. Change for a day, you change how you feel for a day. Change how you habitually move and you change it for life, right? So we're not saying we're sweeping negative emotions under the carpet. No, we're acknowledging those things, but we're saying we can have more options. And if you could decide right now between being in a peak state or being in a down state as your default, which of those two would you rather have? Which one would allow you to show up as the best version of yourself? I'm guessing it's the peak state, isn't it? So challenge yourself, especially when you don't feel like doing it. That's the time to adopt the peak state. That's the time to adopt it, because anyone can do it when it feels great. We know if you've had a great day, a great meal, you've watched a nice movie, you've shared laughter with people that you enjoy, it's easy to be in a peak state. It doesn't require any effort. It's when you're not feeling it, that's where the muscle is built. So I challenge you, no matter what it is that you're going through right now, adopt a peak physiology. Show up as the best version in your body of yourself. So one way of actually adopting a quick reset in your physiology is changing your breathing. Because think of this, human beings can go for about 40 days without food. We can go for about 4 days, 3 to 4 days without water. How long can you go without oxygen? You can go for a couple of days without sleep, right? Won't be pleasant, but you can do it. But oxygen, you go for 3 or 4 minutes, that's it. You're experiencing brain damage, permanent brain damage. We need oxygen all the time. It is literally the lifeblood of life, if that makes sense. So one way of changing your physiology, especially if you're in a public place and you don't want to draw unnecessary attention to yourself, like what's this person doing with their posturing and their gestures and so forth, is breathe more powerfully. So right now, what you can do is stop breathing for 5 seconds to reset your breath. And then you're going to breathe in more slowly, focusing on your diaphragm until your lungs are full. And then you're going to breathe out even more slowly. You want the out breath to be slower than the in breath. And whilst doing this, you can imagine that you're breathing out pure rest and relaxation into your hands. And you keep doing this, and remember that it's the out breath that will calm everything down, because the out breath activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's the parasympathetic nervous system that deals with rest and digest. That's a part of your system that allows you to have more energy, that allows you to think clearly, that allows you to show up as the best version of yourself. It's the opposite of the fight or flight system of the body. So right now, let's breathe in. Let's stop breathing for 5 seconds. Now breathe in through the nostrils into your diaphragm. And then out through the mouth. Right? And then just repeat that. And one more time. And you continue this for a minimum of 2 minutes, and you'll feel the difference in your body. You'll feel the difference in your body. You'll feel much more calmer, more relaxed, able to think clearly and show up as the best version of yourself. So do this on a regular basis. Another thing here is to use your brain. Now, we're always obviously using our brain at all times, but there are times when we're consciously using our brain and times when we're passively using it. Whenever you're feeling strong emotions, your brain, in a sense, has been hijacked by the strong emotion. And the limbic system, that's the emotional part of the brain, is running the show. You want to get the neocortex, which is the thinking part of the brain, back into the fold. And we do this by actually challenging ourselves to use it. So we need some emotion to motivate us. That's straightforward. But it needs to be the right emotion at the right time, applied in the right way. The more emotional we become, the stupider we become. Why? Because high emotion switches off the neocortex. And have you ever been in an argument, a heated debate, or a fight with someone, not a physical one, and after a while, you've actually forgotten what it is that you're fighting about? All you know is that you need to win the fight. You don't even know what started the fight. You're just so caught up in the fight because the emotional brain, the thinking brain has gone offline. The emotional brain is running the show. You can't even remember what the thing it is or fighting about. It's, in a sense, very stupid. It sees things in black and white, right? So strong emotions make us think not so clearly. And when you're not thinking clearly, in a sense, you've become stupid. So strong emotions make us react blindly and physically rather than thinking objectively and rationally. Being objective and rational when a lion is attacking you probably won't be the best thing from an evolutionary point of view, because it would have slowed us down. But are we chased by lions on a day-to-day basis? No. Much of modern life needs balanced, calm thought rather than quick emotional decisions. The thing is, the part of our brain, the flight or fight system, can't tell the difference between a lion and a dead lion. It treats the two things as the same, and those aren't the same, right? Our physical health is not in danger on a moment-to-moment basis, but our brain, the old part of the brain, the emotional part of the brain, does not know that. It treats those threats as if they are lions chasing us. The only way to deal with these challenges is to think rationally. And by thinking rationally, you can come up with more viable solutions to the challenges. So if you force the thinking part of your brain to work, when you start to feel emotional, then you can dilute and subdue the rampaging emotional part. You can do this by simply forcing yourself to remember 3 names of other students you went to school with, or even running through the alphabet in your head. Try it because it will really, really, really will work. So there's many different ways of going about this. I've just given you 2 examples. You can try counting from 39 to 0 in groups of 3 backwards. So you go 39, 36, 33, 30. It's a simple enough task, but you're using the thinking part of your brain because you have to do those small calculations, isn't it? Or you can even look around the room that you're in and say, okay, let me name 5 objects and name their colors and their shapes. Okay, I see a lamp and it is kind of round, it's silver. I see my slippers, they're gray, they're shaped like slippers. It's simple enough, but by doing so, you're actually activating the emotional brain. You do this for a couple of minutes and you're activating the thinking brain, my apologies. Do this for a couple of minutes and the thinking brain is coming more in line and the emotion is subsiding. So challenge yourself to use your brain when you're feeling strong emotions. And finally, there's the observing self. So we all have a part of ourselves that just observes from an ultimate point of detachment, but it gets clouded when emotions run rampant. We could liken it to the difference between being at the sea in the middle of a terrifying storm and the waves are crashing around you, and watching that sea storm from the safety of the distant shore. It's 2 completely different things, right? One, you're in the storm, another one, you're actually watching it. So when you become angry, lustful, terrified, there's a small part of you that can observe these emotions running through you. You're not totally the emotion because a part of you is outside of it. So the fact that you're able to recognize that there's anger or worry or fear going on means that there's a part of you that's not a part of that emotion. And the more you train yourself to view your emotions from that perspective, the observing self, the more you can distance yourself from that emotional arousal. So to develop your observing self is not the same as being cold and detached, because you can observe yourself being cold and detached. So you're not going to become some kind of robot that doesn't feel anything, because the part of you that's able to observe you being a robot means that you're not a robot. There's a part of you that's not involved in that. So have you ever been in a situation like you've witnessed something majestic or something terrifying happen, like a car accident, or maybe you've been in a car accident, or a fight, or just, I don't know, anything where you sort of get a sense of the situation, but you're not necessarily in it. A part of you is actually watching from the outside in. That there is your observing self. Whereas, perfect example for me is, I remember some years ago, what was that? I was walking down the street and someone came up to me. I was a teenager at the time, small town, and they were recruiting people to work in a store. They were looking for people to take hangers out of a store and so forth. But it just seemed off, the recruitment of it. This guy was standing outside a shop looking for people to work in the back. And there's something about his pitch that just threw me off. I won't get into the details of it, but it turns out that it was actually a con. I won't get into the actual details of how they're going to con people out of money. But a part of me was actually watching him and listening to him speak. And it's almost like I was watching myself from the outside and saying something is off about this. If they had a situation where you come across a character in the street, or it's late at night, or something's going on, and you almost get this sixth sense, this intuition that there's something off here, that there is your observing self. And the more you can train yourself to view things from this perspective, the more power you're going to have in dealing with challenging situations and having more emotional strength and control. So think about times when you're more likely to lose your cool, and practice just observing yourself in these times from the outside. So if you think of a time like maybe if you've got kids and the kids are always leaving the dishes out, they never load in the dishwasher, or someone doesn't put the cap back on the milk, all those little things, you tell them, oh, close the door, and they never close the door. Just imagine those times. Imagine those situations happening, or that person that annoys you, whatever the case may be, and just observe. Imagine that situation, but you're watching from the outside in. You're not in the situation. You're watching it as if it's taking place on a television screen or a movie screen, and you're observing everything going on. Without any emotion, you just detach. You're not positive or negative about it. You're just completely neutral. Uh, you might say this is the other side of this is mindfulness, right? Mindfulness is just you being in a situation without judging that situation as being good or bad. You're just accepting it for what it is. This ties in right. Now, it dovetails with mindfulness very well. So practice facing situations from your observing self. So to summarize what we've covered today in terms of controlling emotions and why you want to control emotions, remember, the more emotional control you have, the more options you have, and the more you're able to show up as the best version of yourself. To summarize what we've covered, first thing is you want to look ahead at the situation. Look ahead and say, how do I want to actually feel when I look back on this thing that's happening right now? How would I have wanted to act? So imagine yourself from the future, and it helps rob the emotion of this is all there is going on right now. Someone says a rude remark to you. It's almost like everything in the world doesn't exist except for that remark that they made, right? That sarcastic thing they said. Look ahead and you can actually help to lower the intensity of that statement. Another thing is be honest with yourself. If you're feeling vulnerable, say I feel vulnerable. If you're feeling angry, say I feel angry. If you're feeling jealous, say you feel jealous. You can't deal with something that you don't acknowledge at the very minimum. So by acknowledging it, you can actually then deal with it. Third thing is to do something, do anything that focuses you off what you're currently feeling or just moves you in a different direction. So going on a walk, go on a workout, read a book, watch a funny video, have a conversation with someone else. Just don't seethe in that particular emotion. Get out of it. Imagine the emotions like being in a bathtub or in a pool. At any point you want to, you can step out of that thing and go and do something else. Another one is to learn from others. Go and find people who have the emotional control, that emotional balance that you admire, and ask them how it is that they do that. What is it that they focus on? What do they tell themselves? What do they specifically do in those situations? You find that a lot of them might even say that they actually still feel emotions, but they just train themselves to do something else. So on the outside, they might look calm and composed. On the inside, they might feel the exact same way, if not worse than you do. But because they've trained themselves to do something else, that emotion then subsides much, much more quickly. Fifth and powerful thing you can do here is to use your brain. Challenge yourself to think about other things, focus on what's going on around you, look at the find shapes, count backwards, try and remember the name of your high school teachers, anything that engages your thinking brain, right? Go through all your passwords backwards, whatever the case may be, just try and force yourself to think more. And finally, the observing self. Imagine that you're observing whatever challenges are taking place, whatever challenging emotional situations are there from the outside in with a sense of calm detachment, not judging, right? Not positive, not negative. If you want to be positive, that's fine, but you don't have to be. Just observe it neutrally. There's a story of a grandfather with his grandkids, and the grandfather was telling his grandkids a story about two wolves and how within each of us lives two wolves. You might have heard the story. One wolf is a wolf of fear, it's a wolf of worry. Okay, and the other wolf is a wolf of strength, it's a wolf of determination, it's a wolf of calmness. And the grandkids ask the grandfather, which wolf then wins? If there's two wolves within us, then which wolf ultimately wins at the end of the day? Which one runs the show? And the grandfather said the wolf that is fed the most is the one that wins. So when we learn how to feed the right emotions within us, the strong, empowering, calming emotions that lead to us being confident, that lead to us having more energy, that lead to us being more calm and rational, then those are the emotions that grow over time because it becomes easy to reinforce it. And if you feed the other one, then that's what grows. So challenge yourself using these techniques to feed the wolf of courage within you and be the best that you can be. I wish you all the best in everything that you do, and I wish you a wonderful, fantastic day.